Giving me an up-close and personal view. And welcome back to the Joanne Powell Show. I am Joanne. We're coming to you from the World Center of Broadcast Media, WCOBM.TV, Hollywood. We have been talking about President Trump's executive order cracking down on immigration. Joining me now, we have two very well-versed criminal and immigration attorneys who have been talking about this issue. We have Lisa Ramirez, who is a partner at the U.S. Immigration Law Group in Orange County and Santa Ana, and also Roger Ponce with Ponce Law Group in Los Angeles. One thing people who might be watching or listening might want to know, what can I do? What are my rights? Everybody is kind of like concerned, maybe scared. Is there hope?
Absolutely. I think one of the things I want to make sure is that people understand that this isn't the end of the world. They really do need to be educated and equipped, know what their rights are. And to the extent that we can share that information with those around us in our community, the better we'll all be for it. I think the president's getting a lot of attention right now, and obviously for good reason. But I think if we could take our energy and move it in the direction of Congress. We've got the courts and they're doing their jobs, and thank God there's attorneys, organizations like the ACLU that are really going to bring accountability to the executive branch of our government. But we as a people are the ones that are ultimately the ones that put our congressional representatives in office. So to the extent that we can be educated, involved, and communicate, I can tell you time and time again when I talk to congressional representatives, they always tell me, well, it's the anti-immigrant voice that we're hearing. And it's like, well, those of us who really care about our rights, whether for lawful permanent residents, for refugees, for asylees, for the immigrant, then we really do need to be communicating with them, understanding what legislation is pending. For example, right now there's bipartisan support both for a bill in the House and the Senate to make law deferred action. DACA, the Dreamers, is what's referred. So I said, we need to let them know, please support this bill, because we want to see our young folks be able to continue to work and live and be protected from deportation. So there's always things that we can be doing, and we really need to turn our attention to Congress and away from the president at this point.
And I would resonate that by saying that that's especially true, I think, of citizens. If you have a voice to be heard, you should let that be heard. It's probably true for everyone, but I think that from a more pragmatic standpoint, in terms of if you are undocumented or if you have family members who are undocumented, I know right now we're talking about asylees and refugees, but I think the trickle-down effect that this will have all through immigration court and through the processes, I think, I always tell folks at our Know Your Rights seminars as well, is you need to know your history. You need to know your immigration history. You need to know your criminal background history. If you know that there's something back there, know it and prepare it. Have a plan in action for your kids, for your loved ones. If in fact you know that you're in that sort of vulnerable population that can be can be the focus of ICE and these raids potentially, or whatever may occur. Again, I'm not, much like what Lisa said, I'm not in the business of frightening folks, but I think if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And it's much easier for an advocate to be able to advocate on your behalf, because there's nothing more frustrating than getting a family member calling one of us saying, hey, I have a family member who's been arrested, detained. Okay, what's his name? They don't know the entire name. Okay, what's his history? Well, I don't know. Those are kinds of things that can certainly assist us in being able to advocate better for those.
Right. And I think another valuable piece of information is that people need to understand there's still due process. So unless they've been already received a removal order from a judge, or they've been expeditiously removed at a border, they have the right to see a judge. So it's not game over. Even if you're arrested, even if you're detained, you're taken into custody, it's really important that they not sign any document that they don't understand, because oftentimes it's in English, and if they don't speak English or read English, they'll tell them something else. So just sign here, just acknowledging that you're receiving this paper, and they're not aware that they're signing for their voluntary departure for them to be removed.
Okay.
But if they don't sign, or if they understand what they're signing, they can ask to see an immigration judge. And there's many more resources that are available before an immigration judge than outside of court. And so, the courts are inundated. It often takes years. I joke, and it's not funny, but many of my removal cases last longer than most marriages.
Okay.
But that's the reality. It is like 9-10 years sometimes. So it's not, immediate. You do have rights, and you can ask to have your case heard before an immigration judge.
But if you do have an order of removal, you want to know that. And so you want to know certain information, like your alien registration number. Those are things that are absolutely vital for your advocate, because when you're being shifted around from one detention area to the other, it's going to be very difficult for anyone to not just locate you, but to be able to communicate on your behalf.
And there are also another component, a lot of children, a lot of high schoolers, people that are afraid to go to school because they might be turned in by someone, a teacher. Or what would you tell to those people?
To the students, to the children, I think if they're age 15 and older, I am highly encouraging people to apply for deferred action if they qualify. That gives them the immediate protection. It gives them the work authorization should they need it or want it. It gives them a social security. It gives them stability. And I think it's never too young to let an individual know. Even children are placed in removal proceedings. They have rights too.
Absolutely.
They don't have rights to an attorney provided by the government. There are plenty of nonprofit organizations that provide free legal representation to children in removal proceedings, but they too should ask to have their case heard before a judge, to speak to a judge, and that they too need to be involved. Their voices need to be heard. So whether that's in the form of a protest, whether that's in the form of a letter or a phone call. I've never had a congressional representative ask me my age. So to the extent that they want to be active, involved, this is the time. It's so important for them to be engaged in our process.
And I think also as parents, we need to be more conscientious of what's going on, and have, just like we have earthquake emergency plans.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, a disaster plan.
Absolutely have something like that in place. Like, this is your Theo, this is who you call in those moments, or this is something along those lines, so that, if something were to transpire, God forbid, I can't foresee in the near future children being necessarily the target, but certainly a parent can. And these kids need to have a backup plan. Your emergency card, list somebody on there, and have paperwork in place so that there's an action plan in place.
Right. And the schools need to know who else is authorized to pick up the child. So not just the parent. You need to make sure your emergency card indicates, these other individuals are permitted to pick up my child in the event that I'm not able to.
Absolutely.
Because that's something that I think a lot of people don't think about. I mean, it's a very important component, because what happens if your parent is no longer there for you as a child? Where do you go, and who is responsible? It
happens far too often, and I think it would be wise for the parent as well to get power of attorney.
Absolutely.
They've got bank accounts, they've got vehicles to sell, they've got a home maybe that they own. They need to have someone who's going to be authorized to conduct a business, whether for their children or whether for their property, in their absence.
Now, what happens with something like that if they don't have the enacted? What happens to their property? What happens if they're not prepared?
Well, it depends. If their cars are not paid for, they get impounded. They get taken. Their bank accounts quickly dwindle off the monthly fees, and eventually gets closed. It's a complicated process, especially once they're outside the United States, when they've been physically removed, to be able to get the necessary documentation and translations of documents for powers of attorney in a foreign country, to anyone to be able to have access.
So that's why being prepared and having someone being your advocate while you're sorting out the specifics is important.
Absolutely. And it can be the difference, to be real frank with you. It can be the difference between being removed and not removed. I talked to detained. In fact, on my way over here, I was talking to a detained client. Oftentimes, the simple ability of being able to have someone else on the other end is enough to give somebody just that motivation to just stick to it. And we're going to get through this, as opposed to being sort of feeling like in an abyss, and I'm just going to sign whatever because they'll throw me over in Mexico and I'll come back tomorrow. You know what I mean? Fighting that mentality. But yes, I think, and I always get in trouble for saying this, but I think that as a community, we also have to just be more organized. Our personal affairs, our financial affairs, so that there's a plan in action. Have money put to the side for when your family has to respond and actually obtain the services of an accredited advocate on your behalf. Those kinds of things, I know they sound petty or unimportant, but they really make the difference between in those nightmare situations.
Yeah. I had a client once that had been here probably for 20 years, but the court obviously can take testimony. They want to see evidence. They want to see documentation.
Okay.
And because he did not have anybody that was authorized to access anything, he had no tax returns, bank statements, his child's school records we couldn't even obtain without his permission, and
Right.
trying to get permission from him to the school while
Okay.
he's in custody is nearly impossible. So they really do need to keep a file, a briefcase, something that has those documents that an attorney would be able to use in the event that they need it.
Well, we're going to have to take another break. So if you're watching or listening, heed what they're saying, because it's a very important issue. You don't want to be caught without being prepared. Just like you said with the earthquake, you have to have this plan in, because it's very important. The times that we're in, we don't know what's happening, so be prepared. You're watching the Joanne Powell Show. We will be right back.
If you are an adult that began college and has not finished your college degree, let me put it to you straight. If your lifestyle and your standard of living is not becoming to you, then you should be coming to us, Oakwood University Elite Program. We are the fast, flexible adult degree completion program for the busy adult, like you.
Register today. Go to oakwoodleap.com or call 256-726-7098. It's time to leap.
For years, people have trusted McKay's Family Mortuary. We're part of your community and we'll take care of the details. We offer a variety of memorial services, including sea scattering and cremation. According to the Federal Trade Commission, the average funeral cost is over $9,000. We have complete funeral chapel service starting at only $31.25, casket included. Direct cremation starting at only $9.95. Visit one of our 5 locations and meet our caring and diverse staff. McKay Family Mortuary. Let us be the shoulder to lean on.
Thanks to Oakwood University and the LEAP program, I have now a college degree. So to the Spanish-speaking members of this community who feel that the LEAP program is something you should consider, I would say, ánimo a la universidad. Considere el programa LEAP de Oakwood University.
Go to oakwoodleap.com or call 256-726-7098.
Seize the Day Scuba for your best scuba experience above and below the sea. You'll find friendly staff, experienced PADI certified instructors, and state-of-the-art scuba equipment and gear. Join our dive club and we'll help you plan memorable scuba excursions. Immerse yourself. Seize the Day Scuba, serving Southern California. Call 949-220-0500 to create your scuba experience.
When I first started into the program, yes, I had doubts. I was really impressed with Oakwood University, with the faculty and the staff and the student body. It was a really good experience, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone who was thinking about going back and finishing their degree.
Register today. Go to oakwoodleap.com or call 256-726-7098.